Well, what's going on, people? My name is Batman, and I wanted to talk up Shadow of Mordor a little bit, because I bought this game the other day when I was feeling disillusioned with Destiny. It was kind of an impulse buy, you know. I'm someone who plays video games like for at least 3 or 4 hours every day when I get home, and if I don't like any of the games I have, either because I've burnt out on them from playing them too much, or I just didn't like them from the beginning, you know, I'll browse around the online store a bit and see if there's anything neat out there. And usually I don't find much that holds my interest, but I took a chance on Shadow of Mordor, mainly because I have very fond memories with a similar game. I believe it was simply called The Lord of the Rings Return of the King, the video game. And that came out the year that movie came out, and I had a blast on that game on the GameCube back when I was a little kid, and I thought this looked kind of similar, and it is as far as the combat goes, and I really enjoyed it. And I know a lot of the concepts and mechanics that I'm about to praise in this game might have already been done in Assassin's Creed or Batman or what have you, and that might be good or bad depending on who you are. If you're someone who in the past has thoroughly enjoyed either the Assassin's Creed or Batman Arkham games, in theory, you'll love this game. However, that being said, I have heard from some other Assassin's Creed players that, you know, they said they're just kind of tired of this format in general at this point, after like 5 Assassin's Creed games, and if they were playing the Batman games as well. And that's obviously a possibility too. You know, you kind of get burnt out just on the general style of this type of game. Same thing happens with Call of Duty for a lot of people. Shadows of Mordor is to Assassin's Creed kind of like how Medal of Honor is to Battlefield. There are some key differences, but there are also some key similarities. So keep that in mind. However, as someone who hasn't played the Assassin's Creed or Batman games, or I played one Assassin's Creed game, this game made me want to play those games. This game made me want to go out and buy the rest of the Batman and the Assassin's Creed games, and I would if I had that kind of money right now. As somebody who usually doesn't pick up non-shooters, this has made me reconsider that habit. And if you're someone like me who in the past is stuck specifically to the shooter genre, hear me out in this video and consider giving this game a chance. It's very accessible. There's a lot to learn as far as mechanics and controls go, but it's not hard to learn, and when you finally start using the things you have learned, like combo moves or stealth tactics, on your own, it's a very gratifying feeling. I've been very pleasantly surprised with this game. You know, I really wasn't expecting much, just something to fuck around on while I waited for other games, like the next Borderlands and obviously COD and Halo down the road, but I know a game is good when I'm staying up really late to play and putting off other important things I need to do. You know what I mean? I ended up putting 30 hours into this game over the last 5 days, and I was doing something interesting that entire time, all 30 of those hours. There was never a moment that felt repetitive or felt like a drag. There was never a part that I felt I had to endure just to get to the next part of the game. In Destiny, I had to endure the grind from level 20 to 29 just to get to that raid. Now, I think Shadows of Mordor accomplished this through the diversity they brought into the game through combat tactics and the way those tactics changed as you leveled up. Every game has some degree of repetition in it, but what makes a game great is when they can make each repetition fresh and unique in its own way. That is done very well here. One of the main types of side quests are these mini missions to rescue 3 outcast slaves from an orc encampment. They're actually called Uruks in the game, but I'm just going to call them orcs so nobody gets confused. It's repetitive in the sense that the objective and the challenge is the same in each of these missions, but because the game really offers you a sandbox as far as tactics go, you know, you can use stealth, you can use brute force, you can use the environment, you can use some combination of all 3. You can blow shit up and shoot down beehives and open cages to let murderous beasts out that will cause chaos in the orc encampment, and while all that's going on, you can go around slitting throats and popping arrows, or you can just jump down into the fray and start hacking it up. The result is that each time you do one of these side quests, it is going to play out differently than the last time you did it. Not only because you have creative control over how to deal with each engagement, but also because there are novel concepts introduced at the right gradual pace throughout your progression in the game. The game you're playing towards the end of the campaign is an enhanced version of the game you were playing at the beginning, partly because of your player's personal progression, unlocking new combo kills and such, which are always a blast, and cool moves like shooting an orc's leg with an arrow and it pins him to the ground, all these different sort of strategic maneuvers that you gradually unlock. You know, you can pin a guy to the ground with if you shoot him in the foot, you pin him to the ground, and you can do that to someone who's like trying to set off the alarm or something. You know, there's a bunch of clever stuff that sort of opens up. But the game also becomes enhanced by these big, new, really game-changing gameplay mechanics that are gradually made available to you, that you slowly unlock. You can learn to ride those murderous beasts I was talking about. You can ride a fucking cave troll. You can ride one right into an enemy encampment and set off the alarms and 1,000 of them come for you, but it doesn't matter because you have a goddamn cave troll. And you can still shoot explosive barrels and stuff from the back of your cave troll. It's pretty brutal. But the real game changer is the ability to control minds of orcs. And they make it fit with the lore fairly well. The idea is you have a ring wraith sort of guy inside of you, keeping you alive and giving you superpowers and whatnot. Once you can start taking over their minds, you can take over as many at a time as you want. You start building your own army. You know, you can march into these enemy encampments with your own orc army behind you, or if you've entered without an orc army, you can sneak around and like stealth mind control the archers on the towers, and maybe you stealth mind control one of the big guys with the shield so he can act as a sort of tank, and then they remain passive until you activate them. You activate them at the right time, you can just start this war. It's this whole, like, you know, you're just behind the scenes. You don't even have to draw blood or get involved. You just like start a war between these two factions of orcs and let it unfold. And then if there's an objective you need to complete, you can go complete the objective while that distraction is unfolding. So you can use them as a distraction, or you can use them as an actual assault force, or whatever. That mechanic just adds a whole new level of depth and replayability to the game, and that's what I was talking about. What you're playing at the end of the game is a super enhanced version of what you were playing at the beginning of the game. You really do unlock new gameplay experiences as you progress. That is very different, I think, from a lot of the AAA titles out today. This gameplay evolution is very different from Call of Duty, which is the same linear game of whack-a-mole from beginning to end, with the only real variations in gameplay from level to level coming in the form of these Michael Bay cinematic interactive cutscenes thrown at you that you have to be really stupid to fail at. In Destiny, you know, you unlock new powers, you unlock new games, but the core, at least as far as PvE goes, the core gameplay experience in the beginning, you know, walking from point A to point B, shooting the bad guys, and guarding Dinklebot while he unlocks something, that is the exact same thing you do at the end. There's no gradual evolution of the gameplay itself. And the combat in Shadows of Mordor, it's very addicting because it succeeds in making you feel like a badass without making the game too easy, which is another failing in a game like Call of Duty. COD is really good at making you feel like a badass, but eventually you recognize how easy it really is, and it sort of takes away from the feelings of badassery. And again, that applies to the PvE, the campaign in Call of Duty. Multiplayer is a separate. Multiplayer is like a separate game, basically, and obviously it can't be compared to Shadows of Mordor, because Shadows of Mordor doesn't have multiplayer. But anyways, the second half of this game boils down to using your orc mind control powers to take control of the entire orc army and eventually assault the Black Gate. And there's this whole process of hunting down orc captains who have their own weaknesses and strengths that you can learn by interrogating certain orcs who you have to capture without killing, which means you have to be all stealth-like about it, because you can't just interrogate them if their friends are trying to kill you, and you can't necessarily just kill all their friends because the alarm might get triggered in the process and then you're fucked. So it's like this super intense kidnapping mission, and then you have rescue missions, and then of course you have your traditional assassination missions where you gotta go in and fuck up some captain or war chief. In the second half of the game, it's a lot like Game of Thrones. You're trying to position the orcs you control in a way so that they will own the entire orc army after you assassinate, you know, the bad guys who already own the orc army, which is these 5 war chiefs. And you can mind control the war chief itself, but that means kidnapping him, which is very difficult because they're always heavily protected. They have captains protecting them, and then those captains have the regular guys protecting them, so it's easier to just go after a captain, but you can go after a war chief if you want. Each option has its pros and cons, but there's this bigger picture taking place that you control, which I thought was really cool. There's a lot of personal, creative control over what goes down, how, and when, and that's what I really like about this game. It's very sandboxy, but it's like the right amount of sandbox. You know, like a game like Minecraft is almost too much sandbox for me, but then a game like Call of Duty, I mean, there's no sandbox. But this game, you know, it strikes the right balance of sandbox. The story itself, the lore, had 2 strong points that really stuck out for me. First of all, I knew what was going on the entire time. And secondly, I was interested to see what happens next. These things seem basic, but you'd be surprised how rare they are in games these days, and they certainly weren't there in Destiny. There's also a lot of other random stuff to do in the open world, these things that can sometimes just sort of evolve in front of you as you're traveling from point A to point B, which I thought was really cool. There's hunting and survival challenges. Sometimes you'll randomly see like an orc patrol get ambushed by a cave troll, and then maybe you try to take control of the cave troll. The exploration missions basically involve finding certain herbs and animals to hunt throughout the game. And that's what, kind of requires you to really flesh out the entire world map, which is pretty big. I think if you combined all the open worlds, the moon and the Venus and everything from Destiny, and put them all in one map, this map in Shadows of Mordor would still be bigger. Or at least there are two maps. There's two big areas, two main areas in the game. You can also explore and find artifacts, which help tell the story, kinda. It's like Destiny Grimoire cards, except they're not trying to force you to get an app to access them. You can just go through and read them in your in-game. Mostly, I'm just making this video because I feel like this game deserves more attention than it got, and it's frustrating that this game has a vastly superior open world and single-player campaign experience to that of Destiny. I personally feel like I got more bang for my $60 with this game than I did with Destiny, but Destiny still gets all the attention, you know what I mean? Shadow of Mordor has restored my faith in games a little bit in general. It's really made me take a second look again at trying out other games that aren't shooters. I'm one of those players that's been predominantly just playing shooters for the last 5 years. And I just think it's sad these days that the quality of a game isn't what determines how much love it gets anymore. You know what I mean? But word of mouth is the best marketing that any game has, and I'm going to use my word of mouth to tell you right now that this game is something to keep in mind. It's $60. If you're already sort of squeezed by Destiny and there's these other 3 or 4 big games coming out this fall, you're probably not going to get it. But keep in mind, all of the games you're currently super excited for, you'll be bored of when March rolls around. And then it's another 7 months wait till a new round of games comes out. It's sad, but mostly true. And you know it and I know it, and by then this game will be like $40, so keep it in the back of your mind, alright? And when March rolls around, if you're looking for something new and fresh, solid 40 hours or so of quality gameplay right here, Shadow of Mordor. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Please rate. This is Batman signing out.